Hello everyone out there. This chapter, chapter 9 on oligopoly in your textbook includes a discussion about different types of oligopoly like the Cournot and Swissy and others. And I honestly believe that this is more than what you need to know for an MBA managerial econ class. And that is why I am asking you not to worry too much about this material. Concentrate on the lecture notes, the basic concepts, and in addition, please pay attention to this discussion that has to do with market structures. That is, I think, a good summary of what the basics of these four major markets you are supposed to know. So here is the story. Imagine that you have a a continuous line that goes all the way from perfect competition, passing for monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. So you have two extremes: perfect competition, where you have many companies, and we have discussed that already in previous chapters. And on the other extreme, you have monopoly, which by definition is just one company. All right? We also said that under perfect competition, you have so many companies and so many sellers that nobody has any power over the ongoing equilibrium price. And this is why we said every market participant, whether you are a company or you are a customer, you are a price taker. There is nothing you can do to change the ongoing market price. And on the other hand, we said that monopolies, since it's the only company in the market facing the entire demand curve, they enjoy market power, and then we say that they are price makers. So there is here price taker and price maker. I'll come back to monopolistic competition and oligopoly in a second. So if you remember under perfect competition, imagine that you have a diagram here that illustrates the demand for any kind of good. So here you have the demand. Under monopoly, we know that this is the marginal revenue curve, and this is the marginal cost curve. So remember, the golden rule for profit maximization is this: marginal revenue has to be equal to marginal cost. Now under perfect competition, we know that the price is equal to marginal cost. So basically what I'm saying is that under perfect competitive conditions, you are going to find that the amount produced, QC, is right here, and the price under perfect competition, PC, is right here, right? So the sub-index C and C here for Q means that this is the result for perfect competition. So you can see that the price is relatively low and the amount is relatively high. Now, if you compare this result to monopoly, right? So let me label this. This is going to be the result under perfect competition. So assuming that this market structure is characterized by perfect competitive conditions, this is the result. Now, under monopoly, remember marginal cost, marginal revenue being equal takes place at this point, and here is going to be QM. And again, the M stands for monopoly, the amount produced by the monopoly. And if you go all the way up until you hit the demand curve and then you take a left, you are going to find the price that monopolists can charge. So this right here is going to represent the outcome under monopolistic conditions. All right? Now, why is this important? Well, notice the big difference. The price under perfect competition is significantly lower than the price under monopoly. Why? Because monopolies have market power. They can do that. In addition to that, notice that the amount produced by perfect competition is higher than the amount produced by monopolies. And of course, from the point of view of consumers, perfect competition is better because you pay a lower price and enjoy a higher amount. But under the point of view of the companies, monopoly is better because the price they charge is higher by restricting the amount they produce, and therefore they make higher level of profits. All right. So this is a very simple chart that illustrates these two extremes. So this point right here basically is corresponding to this extreme on this continuous line of market structures, and this one right here for perfect competition basically represents this perfect competition. Now, what about monopoly, which is the matter of this chapter 9? All right, this is a very good point for me to explain what the basics of oligopoly are all about. Remember, under oligopoly, there is always this tension among companies between cooperation and competition. Let me explain this again. It's in the lecture notes, but it's okay. Cooperation means that they are going to become a cartel. They are going to practice collusive behavior, and then they are going to act as if they were a monopoly. So under cooperative agreements, when they reach some sort of deal by which all the oligopolistic companies in the market reduce the amount they produce, trying to bring this QC all the way as closer as possible as QM. Well, when they cooperate and they act as monopoly, this one right here, the same point right here, actually let me do this with a different color, the same point that you have here for monopoly is also going to be the outcome for an oligopoly under a cartel when they reach an agreement. But of course, I explain in the lecture notes that the seeds and the basic motivation for cheating the agreement are planted since the moment they reach this deal. So there is a huge incentive for them to cheat. And of course, when they cheat, they move from cooperating to competition. And when they do that, of course, this oligopoly outcome is going to switch from this point to this point that is closer to perfect competition. So you can basically say that, well, if the oligopoly, and you have many companies, they compete, then you are going to see a reduction in the price and an increase in the amount. So in other words, this is what I'm telling you. As the number of companies in an oligopoly increases, if the number of companies or firms increase in an oligopolistic market structure, the outcome of this market is going to look more and more like perfect competition. In other words, you may start with one company, of course it's a monopoly. When you have two companies and then you have a duopoly, you may end up right here. You have 3, 4, 5 companies. Every addition of companies, as the number increases, the price is going to go down and down and down. And of course, as the price goes down, the quantity produced has to increase because you have a larger number of oligopolistic companies. And eventually, if you have very many companies producing exactly the same good or service, well, you're going to end up here with a perfect competitive outcome. So the basic idea, once again, is that you understand that, when you have different number of companies and different degrees of cooperation or competition, the outcome is not always the same. This is the one under cooperation and this is the one under competition. All right, so that covers oligopoly. The case of monopolistic competition is different and cannot be illustrated in this chart simply because, well, monopolistic competition, as you can see in the name, combines elements of perfect competition and monopoly, which basically means that you need a chart that looks similar to this for each one of the companies. And of course, I cannot do this in one chart. But essentially, as you can tell, and as you remember from previous chapters, monopolistic competition basically means that companies have some degree of market power over a market segment. Not the entire market, but just a segment of the market. So In some books, you're going to find this reverse, monopolistic competition closer to monopoly, or vice versa, like I have them here. It really doesn't matter. The point is that anything that is not considered perfect competition is considered imperfect, which goes all the way through monopoly. Okay, I hope these ideas help to, again, get better grasp at the basics of market structures, particularly oligopoly. Let me know if you have questions or comments.